Hello, everybody. I'm DLisa, the Dream Doula for Women.
Hi, I'm Carolyn Coleridge. I'm a psychotherapist, intuitive, and healer.
Yes, a psychotherapist, intuitive, and healer. And we're going to talk about how this is just a journey. This is just a soul's experience. And tell us more about that.
My background has been a psychotherapist for 30 years, and I used to have spiritual experiences. In fact, I had visions. So I was studying to become a therapist, and I would see ghosts. I would just see ghosts in my room, my dorm, and I didn't know what was going on. So I ended up, looking into it, finding out my mother saw ghosts. My mother's a chemistry teacher, and it was really opening up my third eye
Okay,
to
your mother saw ghosts and she was a chemistry teacher.
I know, don't you love
But
it?
but she didn't talk about it.
Oh no, she did. She talked
Oh,
about, I thought it was just her. I was 28 when I started to see them. She
okay.
had them all her life, and it was for her it helped her to get a scholarship to go to she wanted to go to medical school, then she went to Columbia, and she wanted to be a doctor. Since she was growing up in a poor environment, all these things, her dreams, her visions, her messages, helped her to figure out what she was supposed to be doing, what she wanted to do. And for me, I did call her and I asked her about it. And she's like, oh, it's just your soul's talking to you. Those are ghosts. They're people, they're spirits that have not lived on the earth plane or lived on the earth plane. And they're just ghosts. They're just like homeless people. And I said, okay, but why are they coming to me now? And then I realized I was 28 and it's part of something called the Saturn return. And every 7 years, our soul grows. So, like it's like a clock, like we're here to grow and learn. That's why on the earth plane, things happen, and like there's 7 layers of skin, 7 years of cycles. So at age 7, kids are more connected to, where they are right now. Like they're more into their being a personality than they were as a cute and cuddly when they're 5, 4, 3. And then when they go to 7 more years, 14 is high school. And that's considered that's a marker in life. 7 more years is like a clock. You were 21. 7 times 4 is 21. And at 21, you're considered quote unquote an adult. But when the clock strikes 12 and you're at 28, it's called the Saturn return. It really starts at 29.5. So everything that you're here is like that to learn as a soul will come up, or your gifts or what you're supposed to be doing will come up to look at a big sense. It'll be dramatic. And like for me, it was seeing ghosts, and that I've never, really saw them. Maybe I heard one or two, or my mother would see them. And I just started to go to healers and intuitives and say, why am I seeing ghosts? They're like, oh, your third eye is opening. It's probably part of your soul cycle, your soul agreement while you're here. And I said, well, I'm supposed to be a therapist. I can't see or hear things because that would be how psychotic. And they're like, well, it's part of your destiny. So knowing that my mother was a chemistry teacher, biology teacher, very rooted science, a master's from Teachers College in 1950 something for a Black woman, it was, a huge thing. And
Yeah.
then for me, so for her saying it's normal, really normalized it because she had such a strong scientific background. And then when I started doing research, I realized my grandmother was the same way. My grandmother's like,
Mm.
oh, there goes. My mother said, oh, hey, mom, my grandmother, she has the gift. She goes, oh, she's like us. Oh, great. How are her grades? Is she doing okay? They didn't care. They normalized it. Growing up in a poor society, sometimes dreams or visions or messages are really important to help you to find you on your soul path, because society may tell you, oh no, that you're not good enough, and you can't get this, you need this kind of money to go to this school. But spirit will say, no, let me lead you on a path down the rabbit hole. Let me lead you on with little crumbs to find your soul's journey. And that's what we all need to do. We need to, I say, dreams in life and dreams at night, they're both important. Knowing that
Yeah.
you're a dream doula,
I
and
totally agree with that theory.
yeah, yeah.
The and I've also heard that these kind of gifts to be so intuitive that you see things other people can't see. or have healing gifts tend to run in women, in lines of women, in families. So it's
Hmm.
not surprising that your grandmother had the gift, your mother had the gift, and then you had the gift, even though you're like, wait, what's going on?
Yeah, on my mother's side, and then on my dad's side, my father had interesting dreams. His mother also did readings. You know, his mother had visions and would do readings on people, and it was just part of, so both sides of the family had
Wow.
that. And then I met some of my aunts and my father's sisters, and they said, "Oh, there's somebody named Jojo and Susu, sorry." And they're like, "Oh, that's your grandmother's sister who also had the gift." So it ran in lineages, and I feel that a lot of people have it, but we've been so conditioned to put it down. There's something wrong with you. You're crazy. That, there's something, it's not right. And that's because when you have intuitive gifts, you're really connected to the divine,
Yeah.
and you're really connected to the soul. So when I started to sit down with people as a therapist, maybe my ancestral lineage was like, that's a soul in front of you, not a patient. And what is the
Uh,
soul here for? Yeah. And I was more relaxed during the nighttime when I was going to sleep, and I'd wake up and see them. They would be talking to me like we're in session. It was so
you know,
crazy.
somebody
Yeah.
was asking me that the other day. They're like, I go to sleep and I have these dreams and I feel like I'm in school. I said, oh yeah,
Hmm.
you're learning on the other side while you're sleeping.
Oh, 100%. We're
You
all in
know
school.
what you learned, and some of it's really fantastic. Like if you want to invent something, go to sleep and dream about it. If you want to write a poem or a book or a song or so many things have been invented in either in dreamland or in that liminal state between dreaming and waking.
Hypnagogic state, yes, they call it
Yeah,
in psychiatry.
yeah,
In between the realms in the fourth dimension. And yes, we do. And a lot of times the spirit world, and everyone has different beliefs, but Einstein got a lot of his theories, E equals MC squared, when he was falling asleep or
yeah,
waking up. He would
yeah.
have visions. And I heard that Hilton, that he had a vision about building the hotels right before when he went to sleep and wake up. So it's in women and also men, but the dream world is where we connect to the soul, and we connect to our ancestors and God and the angels. And since we come here, I believe as souls with a contract. So you came here maybe to be a dream doula. I came here to be a therapist that help people that have spiritual, intuitive experiences not feel like they're going crazy, because many people that are having these will be put in a psych ward, and I was, functioning. I wasn't like hearing command hallucinations or anything. They're very nice guides and, spirits, and they're kind of like Casper, but the ghost. But,
I
yeah. So it's a way to help people that we are in Earth School. I mean, I believe that we come here to learn and grow. We learn lessons, we get attributes depending on what we're going through, and then we go back home. You learn strength and compassion and wisdom and understanding and patience and perseverance. And all these goals make our aura light up brighter and brighter. And as we get higher and higher, we overcome these obstacles and these difficulties, these challenges, these lessons. It's like, jumping over, like I can't think of the thing when you're running. Um, like
oh, the her
hurdle,
yeah.
yeah, jumping over a hurdle, and then once you pass, you win. You get the gifts of this, you get the gift of that, and then what happens is that as our light gets brighter, we go up to the higher parts of heaven. And if you know heaven and have been there, or if you believe in it, that means you get more to a place of peace.
Mm,
And yeah, I think a lot of these spiritual books, the Bible, the Bhagavad Gita, Taoism, the Quran, all these different spiritual books are teaching people this different ways to get back to the light. How do you live an ethical life? How do you live a good life? How do you help one another? Love thy neighbor as thyself. And I feel like things that happen, like for example, those fires in California, people are becoming very neighborly with each other. People who
yeah,
may have, yeah.
that's what's happening. People are helping one another. People are being really kind and respectful, and it's beautiful to see.
And that may have been part of the lesson of why it happened. I mean, things happen randomly, or the fire, the earth, um, is you had the fire, and then was it North Carolina or is it Asheville, North Carolina, where the
Yeah, yeah,
water was? Yeah, so that's the water, the fire, the air. Things are wind, the earth, I believe, is a real being, and as it gets out of balance, it can really affect us. I think we need to tend to the earth more. We need to respect it more. We need to listen. Native Americans used to do rain dances. I did a meditation recently and I said, let's call in the rain for California. Let's call in, what is the magic of working with nature and working with the energy? So yes, I believe we're in Earth School. I do believe you have lessons to learn. And I believe that like in different levels of education, we're here for different reasons. And the more you go with your heart and your soul, the more you find out what is your soul's journey. What are you here for? Yeah.
yeah. And at a certain point in life, unless you're just really clueless, you get it. You get what the lesson is, and if you're getting it or not, because you get it over and over and over again.
Hmm.
Uh,
Yeah.
like, oh,
Mhm.
this thing again? Oh, man. Yeah, that might be something I'm here to learn.
Exactly. Yes, it keeps repeating, just like the cycles. That's why things go in cycles.
Yeah.
And then when you learn it, it usually goes away. It's a lesson you pass the test, and there may be something else. And our contracts of our soul are something that's within us, and we learn them through our dreams at night. We have dreams, and that helps us to, I believe that we leave our bodies and we ascend up to the higher planes and go to our Akashic records, which is the book of our life, and start reading what our souls hear. And that some people call it deja vu, like, oh, I remember this person. I think it was in my, my dream world already seen. And then it feels that then we get to those situations, you feel called, you feel a tingling, you feel a remembrance, and that's your dream life. So your dreams can really teach you what you're here for. And you can ask, you can say, show me in my dreams, because in our dream state, we're more quiet. We are more, rested. So our spirit guides, our soul, our ancestors can give things at that time in our dream state and then help us, and then we can use it in the waking state.
Yeah. So do you have clients that come to you and they're freaked out because they suddenly have these psychic abilities? And you can say, oh, yeah, I see ghosts too.
Yes, yeah. Actually, in my book, Honor Your Spirit, I read that. Oh my God, it was almost 10 years ago, 2017. There was a young girl that I was working with in the ER, and she was going to be on a psych hold because she told, she's about 15, that she saw these ghosts and they were bothering her, haunting her. And the psychiatrist felt like she was psychotic. And then when I went to her, I said, what are the ghosts like? She goes, well, some are my grandmother, some are my aunts, some are different people, and they're teaching me things. And I said, oh. And I said, what do you want to do? She says, I want to be an artist, and my family wants me to do something, a little bit different. So I said, well, I see ghosts. She said, you do? And the article I wrote was it the title is what is it? Ghost. Well, I'll get to it. But it basically from suicide, because she was suicidal, to wide-eyed. So as I told her over and over that no, this is real, her eyes got wider. And she was like, wow, really? You see ghosts? It's not bad. I said, no. I said, you should call in, are you religious and are you Catholic? She's like, Catholica, she's Latina. And I was like, oh, well, call in your guides. And she said, I keep seeing Mother Mary. I said, Mother Mary's probably to protect you so you don't be afraid. And she did. And then they would tell her great information. They would tell her how to find a good art school. They would tell her she was an amazing artist, really gifted. And they would tell her different things. So I was like, they're coming to you to help you on your destiny. Now, funny enough, there's a book called Being and Dreaming in the Mexican culture, Florinda Donner and Carlos Castaneda talked about dreaming. There's a different tribe, the Toltec part of Mexican culture, that they're talking about the dream world. They're very much into the dream world. So coming from that background, it probably was part of her genetic lineage. And her parents are trying to run away from that and make her more Catholic, but it was very important for her. And, we talked for a while. She calmed down. She didn't feel that they were trying to hurt her. And the next day came back and she wasn't on a hold. She went home. So I believe it can really help people knowing that we have the physical world and then there's the spiritual world. So,
Yeah, I recently was talking to one of my clients who said um, she heard voices at the
mm,
roadside uh, by these crosses at a place that you might just drive off the road and kill yourself,
mm,
or jump off the bridge and kill yourself, which
mm.
she was considering.
Oh my gosh.
And the voices said, don't do it. One was
Mm,
a cross with a man's name on it, one was a cross with a woman's name on it. And the man's voice said, don't do it. Everyone will miss you so much and it'll really mess them up.
wow.
His voice said something similar, and it freaked her out so much that she didn't kill herself. She
Mm,
drove straight home and said, I need therapy. I think I'm going crazy. She didn't
yeah.
see a therapist like you. She just went into therapy and thought if she told that story, they would put her in a mental institution. So she didn't even tell the story for like 15 years.
Wow. Wow.
What
Oh.
crazy burden to carry that you wouldn't tell your therapist or your husband or your kids this
Mm,
because you think these voices in your head weren't real. And what if they were real? I said,
mm,
you know, that could really be the soul of that person talking to you. What?
wow.
No one had ever told her it was okay.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so I think the modern world is shifting and changing
Mm-hmm.
to believe more in this esoteric reality that we live in, that maybe our dreams are real. Maybe we can see people who have passed over and have conversations with them. But I think for most mainstream people, they're like, they think this reality that we have in our waking life is all there is.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe they die and go to heaven or hell, but they don't think there's help from the other side. Maybe if they plead with their God of their understanding, they might get something and they might not. They kind of think of God as Santa Claus, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so I love what you do in the world so much. You must be very good at your work.
Well, it's important to know that I am a licensed therapist, so I want to make this caveat too, that you have to assess them to see if it is command hallucinations. Is it saying hurt
Sure.
yourself or hurt somebody else? Are they not eating, not sleeping? Are they aggressive? Are they feeling an entity? So there's different levels, like if she can go back and live a normal life and just heard a voice, that's different. So when I worked at a mental health institute, it was a partial step down program when you're for the major HMO before you get hospitalized. It's a PHP, a program. There were three of us who were healers. There was one as a psychiatrist, a Filipino guy, and then there was the pharmacist was also a healer. So they all had spiritual experiences, heard voices. We all were healers, so we knew the difference of people seeing shadows and how to assess that. They would talk about, seeing different things. So you have to make sure that the person is fully functioning in other areas of their lives,
Right.
because there are people that hear dark beings. There's a whole um, story about that. There's a great article called The Shamanic View of Mental Illness, where shamans in Africa, Melodoma Somé, and then also Alberto Villado believe in like African culture and Peruvian culture, and probably many, many cultures. When people hear voices, they're really being called to be a shaman, but they need someone to train them how to
Right.
do it in a certain way. And there's a wonderful movie that talks about it called Crazy Wise. It's online. And there's people who are they, like in my book, I said, are they losing their mind or hearing the divine? So you gotta, assess. Like after I saw ghosts, I wasn't like not able to get out of bed, not taking a shower. I wasn't, wanting to grab somebody and hurt them. It was just, I saw ghosts and I woke up and I went studied got my A average, So, it's very different. Like for example, a dream that helped my mom, she was trying to get a scholarship to go to college. She prayed and prayed and prayed. She used to read the Bible. At night, she used to wake up And if you got the highest exam in this school my mother went to, you can get a scholarship to go to Hunter or to go to America, you know. So my mother had a dream, and then she woke, got out of her body, flew out of her body, and was floating to the exam room. And then she would open this exam door, and she would see, the test. She'd look at the test, find out what you're supposed to study, close it, go back into her body, go back out of the exam room, float back, astral projections, what they call it. And she would study that, and and she won. She got the highest scholarship. She was able to get a free scholarship to go to Hunter. So the spirit world was helping her to live a higher
Wait, so
destiny.
she previewed the test in Dreamland. I
Exactly.
love it. And she
Yeah,
could remember what it
by
was.
praying to God and getting a higher calling. That was part of her destiny.
Yeah,
Astral projection, when people leave their bodies, and so she told me stuff like that all the time, and she didn't know what to call it. I said, Mom, this astral projection. She goes, I don't know what it is. I'm a spirit, but I wasn't, and I was here, and so yeah.
I think it's beautiful. She didn't care what it was called. She just did it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Using the Bible, that's the thing, is important. There's a light in the dark. So if you use spiritual books, Bhagavad Gita and all these other books, then what happens is that you can open up to higher realms as opposed to, you know, listening to a dark being. They have different frequencies. So because she was connected to the light, it helped her to find the right in terms of higher consciousness. It's just like the news. Like, are you listening to something negative and fear-oriented and aggressive and demeaning? Or are you listening to beautiful music and words that are uplifting and loving? Which road, which things are you going to feed? Which side? So, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, it's like that Native American story in which are you going to be evil or good? It depends on which wolf you feed, right?
Yes, yeah. Yeah, it's the dark and the light, where the contrast is what keeps Earth alive. There has to be something to overcome, so you can look back and say, I don't want to do that. I want to ask the light. So that duality makes Earth a physical construct. In heaven, allegedly, there's just light. So when you overcome, when you have a choice, you have the little devil and the little angel. What do you want to do? Do you want to do something right, or do you want to do something wrong? Because I do believe in karma. I believe karma is energy, and that energy you put out will always circle back, no matter if it's good or bad. Yeah.
Yes, yes. Oh, that's so beautiful. So when you're working with your psychotherapy clients, are are all of them sort of spiritual people that are attracted to you, or some of them are just plain Janes and they don't believe in this woo-hoo stuff?
Yeah, it's funny. I just had a woman today that was definitely says I don't get into that woo-woo stuff. And I heard on a podcast somewhere a teacher that said the word woo-woo comes from the word woman. That
Right.
during like when years ago when women used to have these intuitive spiritual gifts, women lived in the woods, they call them witches, whatever. And they said woo-woo was, oh, that's the woman stuff. That's the woman stuff. Where women are receptacles. We have a uterus. So the energy from spirit comes down, you can create a child, or it comes down, you can create new food. Which herbs do I use? You can create different things. We are natural creators. And it's actually the time of the divine feminine right now, where women are being called to speak up for their rights and saying, we receive information from the divine. We receive a spark, which becomes a child, meets the seed, and creates life. So we also get messages and information, and men didn't have that gift. So there's some beliefs. That's why the patriarchal system overcame it, because we're in a physical plane and they didn't understand it. Now, I work with a lot of men. When I used to work on Wall Street as an EAP counselor, a lot of men are very intuitive. They have gut, they call them instincts. They have gut
Right.
instincts, they have awareness to go here, go there. They just don't put it in that category, and they have dreams, they have visions, like I said about Einstein. But they just say, no, it's my gut energy. So we all are part of the divine hierarchy of creativity. I mean, Jesus was a shaman in many ways. He had healing ability. He had foresight. He knew he was going to be crucified when he was in the desert 40 days. So
Yeah.
we all have these gifts. And he had dreams, Judas is somebody in this group who betrayed me.
Yeah, I heard Jesus was also an herbal healer. He was trained by his mother and his grandmother and his aunties, and he also studied. People don't know about this or think about it, but one of his uncles had a big shipping company, and he traveled all around the East and learned how to meditate and all the things. I mean, he was basically the original, well, for our time anyway, the original manifester teacher. He's like, here's how it works on the planet.
Hmm.
Do this thing that I can do, even you can do better.
Absolutely. Yeah, Jesus definitely was a prophet and son of, I believe, the son of the divine. And yes, I do believe in the Gnostic Gospels, those times where did he go? That he might have been in India, that he was, because it just, if you start looking at the things he talked about, brothers and sisters, that's, that we're all one. And then, um, like you reap what you sow. Those are universal laws like
Yeah,
karma. Yeah, so I
yeah.
do believe he studied. I also believe he studied in the Egyptian mystery schools. And he went with Mary Magdalene because she was a high priest initiate of the Isis mystery schools. So, and Egypt was right there when they were in Israel. So there was a lot of stuff that's been let go. And he also was an Essene, which I find is very fascinating. Essenes were a sect of is it the Hebrew or the Israeli group where they ate herbs, they ate food of the earth. I used to go to this place in San Diego called the Optimum Health Institute. And it's a raw detox, and they base their stuff on their teachings on the Essenes. And we pray, we eat, and allegedly Louise Hay went there to heal herself. People said that they would see her around there when she did the colon. She had colon, and she had cancer. I think it might have been cervical cancer, but she had cancer. But she was getting colonics, and she was healing. She was watching what she said, and that's Louise Hay's claims to fame. So, and it's in San Diego. She was in Carlsbad, so I wouldn't be surprised if she was there. But when I go there, people say, "Oh yeah, we've seen her. She's just come and be very quiet." And so, but it was wonderful. Whenever I went there, you're gonna like this. Um, and I eat the raw detox. And these are real, when they say raw, it's like there's some grass. That's what we're having for dinner tonight. We're having wheatgrass or we're having, I would have these incredible dreams whenever I was there. I had
Mm.
a dream because it clears out all this the crap that blocks our channels and our pineal gland and other stuff. But I had a dream of this guy in the woods. So I was having all these spiritual experience. I brought these crystals and I went to eat of the raw. And this guy was there with three fairies. And he said his name was Pan. He didn't say it, I just knew. And his skin wasn't white or black, it was golden. It was like the sun and like gold. It was a weird brownish gold color. And Pan is the overseer of Peter Pan is where they named, but the Pan Piper, they made it negative. But he's the overseer of the second dimension, the plant and animal kingdom. And he was shooting arrows at me playfully. He goes, "You're going to you're working with crystals, but you didn't ask their permission. You're going to eat the food of the earth, but you didn't ask their permission." He goes, you have to ask the permission to open up into this dimension. And I was like, oh, I was like dodging the bullets in the dream state, and their fairies like dancing around. It was really weird. I woke up and I was very strange. And I did research, like, oh my God, that's Pan. And I asked for the crystals for permission to give me, healing. Like there's a connection. Native America called crystals, what do they call them? People, like stone people. And
Oh
then
yeah,
before you eat, you pray, and
yeah.
then it's like asking permission for the animal kingdom or the plant kingdom so I can consume their knowledge and insight. So that was a
I love
dream.
that because I
Yeah.
have a friend who's an herbalist. She went to herbal school, and she just went up to the farm and got back some sage so that we could burn it in our
Oh,
house. And she said,
beautiful.
I asked permission first because
There it
when you
is.
harvest any plant that you want to use in medicine, you ask the plant. And I have a shaman friend who also gives an offering back of tobacco to the plant. So
Mm,
it's a sacred op- opportunity to work with the plant. If the plant says no, don't take it. If the plant says yes, the medicine will work.
perfect. You have a real life example of it, and I had it in a dream state. There it is.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
I people don't realize that they need to ask permission to eat the food. And that's a great way to do it is to bless it before you eat it in the
Mm-hmm.
meal or ask it before you harvest it. Yeah. What
Right,
do you
yeah,
think?
absolutely. And a lot of native cultures used to do that. And like I mentioned before, like Native Americans did and the, rain dance. They worked with the elements, they worked with energy.
Yep.
And maybe that's what all these things are teaching us, all these tragedies. We have to work with the environment a little bit more. What we say, we create. So a book that I'm writing called Conscious Creations, that's the name of my business also, is that what we think about, we bring about, what we speak is seeking us. That's more roomy. What we speak is seeking you. So we have
Mm.
to be careful what we're creating. Is it rage? Is it anger? Is it, negativity? And I think that's why speech is becoming so powerful right now. Who's saying what and to whom and to where? Oh, it's just words. Is it? Or is it these are the commands of creation? And didn't God say, let there be light? And light came.
Yeah. The power of words. There's a woman who's a coach for 40 years named Deborah Poneman. She lives in Ojai. I don't personally know her, but I've been on a couple of her workshops, and she tells a beautiful story about the power of words. And she was in a near-death experience. She was dying in a hospital room. Her husband was in the corner weeping, and she was kind of in and out of consciousness. And the doctor came into the room and said, "Oh my God, we're going to lose her. Give her this or that," and she could see his words come out as a brown, swampy, greeny color, and it smelled like a swamp.
Mm.
Then a nurse came in and comforted her. Maybe the nurse was already there, but the nurse comforted her husband and said, "Don't worry, she's going to be fine." And
Mm.
her words came out looking like white, sparkly light.
Interesting.
And
See?
in her near death experience, she said to who wandered off from her body for a while, and she said, "If I go back, I will teach everyone the power of their words."
That's her mission, part of her mission,
She
if
could
not
see
more.
them, she could
Mhm.
smell them. Wow.
Deep, deep. Yeah. Yeah. That's why I need my business conscious creation. Like, when your mother said, say, watch your mouth. It's really true. We have to watch what we say, but for her to see it and know it, and then obviously she survived.
She
Yes.
survived to tell the tale and teach people that their words are power.
Yeah, God said, let there be light. And he didn't say it, actually. I think he thought it. So thoughts are the next step too. We're in the age of Aquarius. What do we think about? You bring about. Be
Yes.
careful. Yeah. So, and maybe the plant and animal kingdom and the fire, air, earth, water can feel that energy. All this rage on the planet. Is that what's going on? We have to just start looking at it, going back
Such a
to,
good question. I saw a study the other day where they did a study on house plants,
hmm,
and they said that must have been a study in the UK because they use kilometers from 2 kilometers away. When the caretaker of those plants starts coming home, the plants perk up.
nice.
They know their tender is coming.
Interesting. Well, the
Yeah.
plant need the sun, and my plants over here, they're always like, ooh, they're like moving towards the sun. Like they're only one side, like they all turned.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. And we also get downloads from the sun. There's a lot of information on that. And remember Emoto, I forgot how you say it, Amarasu Emoto, Emoto is his last name. He's a Japanese scientist where he did a survey, I'm sorry, a research study of water. And when people would say negative things over water, it would look all crumpled. But when they said positive things over water, over ponds and different, it would look like snowflakes or these beautiful signatures.
Yes.
I think it was The Power of Water. It's a great book, and I know he passed on a couple of years, maybe several years ago. But that's another example of prayer and speaking truth into it and how the water would change. But this is a woman that you have the experience that you've actually met and know, correct?
Well, I haven't
Yeah.
met her, but
Oh,
I know her through her work. And
okay.
that story is just so amazing. It's never going to leave my brain.
And positive. And I had a kind of experience. I had a near death when I was 37 and have that experience, but I could feel the negativity of the doctors. I don't
Yeah.
remember what they said, but I knew I almost died. I went to the other side briefly, but it was just such negativity. and it was like residents, and I could just see them poking fun at me and this. I could feel it. I could
Mm.
feel it. And then I ended up working in hospitals. And I actually had to file a report against this hospital. They did so many things wrong. And they just thought I was a normal Joe, but I worked in hospitals and I knew about Jacob. I knew about this. And I knew God put me in there for a reason because so many people had blood clots post-surgical because of neglect and abuse. But the doctor's words were like swords. I don't remember. I don't, but certain things I always knew. I said, they got to watch what they say, you know?
Yeah, there's a friend of mine in town who wrote a play about his son's brain tumor,
Mm,
mm, over years going in and out of the hospital. And the title of his play is called Leave Your Fears Here,
mm,
which was the note his wife made and hung on the doorknob of their son's room in the hospital when he was
mm.
getting treatment. And they would tell people if the hospital staff wasn't speaking positive words in that room, they would kick them out.
Wow. So they
They were
knew
like,
about that.
you are going to tell us he's going to live. You're going to do your best to be cheerful. You're not going to say anything negative in there. If you're afraid about him or his, condition, don't even come in here.
Interesting.
And of course, he lived to graduate college.
Mm,
The kid did. And I know him personally. So it's a really beautiful story of, the fierceness of parents taking care of their children in a hospital and demanding
hmm
that the doctors stop talking negatively.
And that's how they're trained.
Sure.
The research says, negative, 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 Every once in a while you get some good ones, but it's they're trained out of fear,
Yeah.
and liability at this point. That's, pushed itself into medicine. Like, I can't say too much because I don't want to get sued instead of the truth. Now, there's a lot of
100%.
yeah, there's a lot of good ones to say a lot of good things too, but I worked in hospitals for years, and again, I got so sensitive after my near death. It's like swords, sometimes when people say things, you can feel it. They call them like energy vampires, or
Yeah.
it cuts like a knife.
Yeah.
And I think all nurses should be trained in Reiki, so their touch is more loving. But there's so much
Yes.
pressure to get this done, to get that done, and get the patient out, or get them on the IVs and this and that, that it's like overwhelming, and people
Yeah.
don't realize how sensitive people are to that.
Yeah. Well, I can't wait till part of the healing work in hospitals includes sound healing and Reiki type healing.
Mhm.
Because, hey, why not? We're not just our bodies.
I don't, yeah, I used to work at a complementary tourism medicine program for kids at UCLA, and I did energy healing. I was an energy healer. So that was part of my journey, which I didn't know. It was a whole long situation where I got pushed out of my job, and I asked God, what do you want me to do? And he said, why don't you work for me? And then within a week, I met this woman at my church, Agape, a spiritual healing church in LA. And we were doing a healing ministry for people that had gone out and did volunteer work. And we were both bumped into each other back to back. And we're like, oh, hey, how are you? So we were sitting on our breaks, eating our little nuts. She said, what do you do? I said, I'm a therapist. She goes, I'm a therapist. And we're both healers. And in therapy, you're not supposed to touch. So I wasn't acting as a therapist there. I was acting as a healer, and it was a volunteer thing. And we just started talking. And she really liked me. She goes, hey, UCLA is looking for a healer. I said, what? She says, yeah, they're looking for a healer to do hands-on healing in at UCLA pediatric pain program. And I said, wow, let me apply. And I just was like, did she really say that? Because I just asked God, what do you want me to do? And I worked there for about 5 to 6 years, and I would go, and it was a complementary alternative medicine program. And actually, if you Google my name and say CNN, we ended up being on CNN because, yeah, they wanted to focus on that. It was actually a show with Dr. Judith Orloff, and she was a healer. I was a healer and psychiatrist that talks about empathy and empaths. And then they had my segment, and I was healing this young girl as a diver. Um, and then they had another segment with Lisa Williams but miraculous. And we have a sound, not a sound healer, I'm sorry. We had a hypnotherapist, craniosacral, acupuncturist, meditation teacher, and with the kids, and they were so open and receptive that it
Yeah.
was absolutely beautiful. So we go and do rounds every Wednesday at 12. It was a wonderful experience and created by Dr. Lonnie Zeltzer, who's still, I think she's still doing that, the pediatric pain program. But this was part of God's journey. It wasn't something I thought about. But that, yes. So, having that happen, UCLA has 13, probably more by now, alternative integrative medicine programs. And it was really an honor to be part of that. And the place that I'm going to be working at out here, they actually used to have Reiki pre-COVID. So we'll see if they're going to have it again, but in the hospital in Connecticut. Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
That's so cool. And so you've written a few books, it sounds like.
Yes. One of my books is over there. My first book is called Honor Your Spirit, and it was listening to that energy, that light within you. And it was my experience being a psychotherapist and an intuitive. How did I mix both without being labeled crazy or this and that? And
Yeah.
I just listened to the universe. The universe protected me, guided me, because like you had mentioned, I helped people that would have been maybe written off as being crazy, and they could have been great channels or healers or intuitives. So
Yeah.
Honor Your Spirits on Amazon. I wrote it in 2016. And then I have another book called Soul Wisdom. I almost want to grab it. It's right over there. And it is a book about all my newsletters. And I just wrote them in different sections like intuition, empathy, meditation, peace. So I put them in all different sections, kind of an inspirational mindfulness book. You open it up and read certain things.
Cool.
I also wrote another workbook that goes along with Honor Your Spirit called How to Work with the Universe, how to listen to messages from the divine, how to hear numbers. You see things in threes. What does that mean? You also can see a totem animal. I see hawks all the time. And if you see an animal at a certain time, these are God's creations to send to you. The word animal comes from the word anima, which means soul, So when you see
Yes.
an animal, it helps you. That's like the shamanic work where they're like dream world or real world, like going in between.
Yeah.
So in the real world, you could see, which is like the dream world, like that you can see certain animals. Like when I was trying to bring spirituality into a clinic I worked at, I kept seeing these opossums, and I was like, these little opossums. I saw a real huge one, and I looked it up, and it says play dead until it's safe to go out. So I knew I couldn't push in this psychoanalytic clinic spirituality because again, they'll be like, oh, she's losing it. So I just waited and waited and waited, and I said, God, give me the chance. When do I? And even my coworker was like, we were talking about it in the class. She goes, there's an opossum outside our office, in a mental health clinic. And I was like, okay, this is really deep. So I waited. And then I said, well, where do you want me to teach? And I bumped into this coworker who we were at each other's office. There's 40 therapists. You don't really know them. And she turned green. Like I saw her aura. And I don't see auras all the time, but every once in a while it's completely green. I said, oh, she's a safe person. And I said, hey, Anne, I want to talk to you about doing some presentations in the intensive outpatient program. And as I talked to her, she goes, come in my office. And she had this big, huge Buddha. And she had just gone to the Himalayas. I had no idea that she was into this stuff. So then when I presented, I said, she was well, maybe, she hemmed and hawed. She says, let's do a presentation with all these people who are depressed. Most of them are empaths, 40 people in a room. And I talked about the word spirit, and I talked about being an empath and being drained. And people were like this, and they all like listened up. I talked about crystals and sage. I had my little meditation. I did that. And she goes, oh my God, Carolyn's amazing. And then after that, I did it every Friday. I would come in and do presentations. So people after the class, I had this long line of people who their souls were calling to them. That's what sometimes a mental health breakdown is. Their souls were calling. And people from all different cultures are like, Jasmine is healing to me. So is I grew up on a farm and I love to smell jasmine. Jasmine's good for anxiety. Lavender is good for depression. I talked about sound and how nature can heal us. Just by 2 hours of nature sounds activates DNA segments in our body that are natural healers that we can self-heal because we are nature. We have fire, air, earth, and water in us. The fire is the heartbeat. Boom, 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 boom. The fire is all the synapses in the brain shooting back and forth. And when they're depressed, they don't shoot, so they give medication, SSRIs or whatever, to get the shooting quicker. So that's the fire. The air, of course, is our breath. The earth is our physical body, and the water is our organs and our blood. So when we go into nature, we're activating and healing all that, recalibrating that and making it healing. So going to the ocean, you got fire, the sun, you got the air, the wind, you have the earth, the sand, and you have the water, the sea. And that helps heal us. So people were just like, wow, I never thought about it. And instead of it being woo woo, it was whoa, whoa. This is me. This is what I need.
Yeah. And I read somewhere recently, this may or may not be true, that physicians in Japan prescribe forest healing to people.
Yes.
Like, you need to go out to the forest for 2 hours or whatever. Here's my prescription.
Mm-hmm. Forest bathing, absolutely. And there is a great video called How the Forest Healed People. It's so beautiful. I used to play that one actually in the IOP every Friday. And I said,
Nice.
all you got to do is walk. And yeah, it talks about how nature can help heal you and lower your blood pressure, your anxiety, depression. And yes, at least 2 hours in nature. And we go through drive-through and we go from our work to our home. We need nature.
Oh, 100%. And it's so healing to go out in nature just for a short amount of time. It makes
Yeah.
everyone feel better.
It does. The sun is very healing. I know people are sensitive and stuff, but there's a lot of stuff that we're ignoring. And I feel like if we honor, like people did sun dances or rain, maybe the nature will shift. Maybe the nature of this global healing is reflecting our own inner rage. Who knows?
Right. Well, I have some friends here that are in a spiritual church. They're going to do some prayers about bringing some rain to California. So you do it from your side of the world. We'll do it from here, and maybe it'll rain.
I just did it. I'm an Insight Timer teacher. I'm an Insight Timer app.
Okay.
And just 2 days ago, I did a meditation on bringing the rain angels and on peace and prayer, words, prayers. Let's all pray together.
Yeah.
That's a horrible tragedy. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Well, how can people find you? And then
Uh,
we'll put all the notes in the show notes so they can read it and click on things. But go ahead and say it with your voice.
Sure, sure. My website is going Honor Your Spirit book is my website. It used to be Intuitive Soul Healing, but there's just a shift. I'm changing markers, whatever they call it. So domains. So Honor Your Spirit book, www.honoryourspiritbook. And then also I'm on Insight Timer under my name, Carolyn Coleridge. So I do meditations there, and I have a couple classes on there for free. You can download on energy, etc. Also, I'm on Instagram. My name of my business in Connecticut is Conscious Creations. So it's Conscious Creations in Connecticut, in CT, on Insight Timer, and then Conscious Creations in Connecticut at gmail.com. I have so many different things. And then I'm on LinkedIn and I have a YouTube, and this will probably go up on the YouTube. My name, Carolyn Coleridge, LCSW.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Nice. It's been so great to have this conversation with you. I know that you are changing the world one human at a time. Thank you very much for the work you do.
Well, thank you for interviewing me. This has been wonderful. Thank you for
Yeah,
letting me
cool.
speak my truth. Yeah.
Yes, happy to have you. And we'll put all the info in the show notes for people that want to find you. And I guess that's it, unless there's one other thing you want to say.
Yeah, I always honor your spirit, trust your intuition. This is the time that we really, really need to trust our intuition. Take classes, meditate, If you can, go on Insight Timer app or just start to learn how to use your intuition because we know what's of the light and what's of the gruesome night. So we really have to start trusting. It's the time of the divine feminine. It's the time of the Aquarian age. It's the time of the creator and the creatress. So we have to listen to our intuition to say that I need to go in a different path because it's going to be a very interesting, intense year. And a lot of people are going to be pushed to create their life purpose.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
And we can help them.
Yes, absolutely.
We can definitely help them. Well, thanks so much. And thanks to everybody who's watching, seeing me like in the shade of the whatever, and she's in the light. Like it's all good because it was a great conversation. Bye for
Awesome.
now.
Take care.